Welcome to the Raising Confident Girls podcast, your guide to raising strong, confident daughters. I'm Melissa Jones, the founder of Girls Positivity Club and a teacher for over 20 years. In a world where girls often feel overwhelmed, anxious, and confused, this podcast is your go-to space. As caregivers, we navigate challenges together. I founded Girls Positivity Club to provide a place where you belong and get the tools to face today's hurdles. Consider this your regular check-in with a trusted friend, offering insights and practical tips for meaningful conversations. I'm here to help you feel confident on this journey of raising a generation of empowered girls. Let's dive in and raise those confident girls together. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another incredible episode of Raising Confident Girls. I'm so excited today because I get to share someone who is a very important person in my life. He is an incredible storyteller. He is a story coach, a speaker, an author, a girl dad, and a million other things. And he is all around an incredible human who I just adore and I have known for the past year. And he has been such a life-changing person for me. So I know he will be for you too. So welcome to the show, Alex Street.
Oh my goodness. Is it ever a joy to be here, Melissa? I feel truly honored to be invited into this space because I know obviously the power that you're producing here, the impact that you're making, and to be invited into this conversation is amazing. So I can't wait for where we're going to go today, where you're going to lead this conversation. Let's have some fun.
I love it. Thank you so much. I would love to start with, yes, we'll get to know who you are, but who are you as a girl dad?
Who am I as a girl dad? Okay, great. So we got married quite young. I was 21, my wife was 22, and within a year we got pregnant. And we were also ready for it.
Same.
Since I was a teenager, I just what did I want? I wanted to get married and I wanted to have kids. I wanted to create a family. I was brought up to be incredibly nurturing by my nurturing mom who bought me dolls, and it's just I had all the stuffies and really treated them like humans. And so it was such a yes when that happened. And when we found out, there was fear, but there was mostly just so much joy. And then when I looked at my kid and it was a girl, something really quickly connected me, like my heart activated in a whole new way. I mean, there's the parenting piece, that is the whoa, this is real. But then I'm holding, and there was something about this, seeing this little girl. I don't know. I imagined so much about what that was going to be, but I also just felt like there's something soft about this. I was so connected to my mom, and there was something about connecting to her through this. I have such a massive connection and respect for women leaders, and women in my life have had such a strong voice. So there was something that all exploded in that moment around that with my first daughter, seeing this connection and responsibility that I have is nothing to be messed with. And I can't wait for it. I can't wait to see where this is going to go. And now 18 freaking years later, I get to see who that woman has become. And it's unreal watching it unpack and unfold and seeing how she's now impacting the world and who she's becoming. And it just keeps going. So who am I as a girl dad? Does that explain it a little bit? That I feel like it went from
such a loaded question.
I knew it was supposed to be there. It was so natural. Maybe that's it.
Yes.
It was this is the shift. This is a story. It went from I was taught to nurture, but it became so natural.
Yes.
Woo!
Yeah. Well, I think that huge question I asked you was such a great one to start with, because it just shows how girl dads can also be very nurturing, very emotionally connected, and still be a dad figure. I mean, it doesn't mean, I think there's such a, I don't want to say stigma, but I think there are some old beliefs around how the dads are removed and they can be very only stoic and not
Mm.
show vulnerability and things like that. And even knowing that you also have a son is like, it's so important, I think, in you just telling even your story of becoming a girl dad for the first time and becoming a parent. It's such a life shift. And I love how intentional you are with using your experience in growing up and your connection to your mom to help you raise amazing kids. And girl dad, boy dad, doesn't matter. Like as a parent, as a human, you're
Well,
doing that. I think that's good.
this is what's really interesting
Hmm.
as we open that up a little bit. So my middle child is non-binary, and so
Okay.
it's uh, even these definitions, as we open this
Yeah.
up, it's becoming new territory around
Yeah.
what does girl dad, boy dad even mean
Yeah.
when it just
Right.
becomes dad,
Dad.
and helping this personality come out, be
Yeah.
developed in whatever context that is. So um this is, you know, again, that like, how do I want to show up? So even when you ask like, who am I as a girl dad, there's actually something there around like, well, I guess that speaks like the real who am I as a dad? Like that's what shows up.
Hmm.
Now I know, again, within the context and wherever we take this, but
Yeah.
that's where I'm what I'm currently processing and working through, and
Yeah.
how it's I mean, it's more than ever becoming actually a lot more simple, where it
Yeah.
feels like that's something that could complicate things. It's becoming a lot more simple around, well, who am I and how do I show up, and how do I love my kids?
Hmm. What are some things that you would say? Thank you for sharing that, by the way. And that's a great topic to talk about. Like, I think it's so important to even mention, like being a
Yep.
non-binary, parent of a child. Like, it's a whole thing too of like, how do I parent my children, no matter how they identify? And
Yeah.
I think it's super powerful that you're thinking about those things. And I'm wondering, what are some things that you do for your kids to stay connected that are like part of? I know that you and your wife have great routines with your kids. I know that you are very intentional with the way that you talk with them. What are
Hmm.
some what are some of your favorite
Hmm.
habits that you have in place as a family that keep you all connected, would you say?
Yeah, it's good. There's I think three things come to mind right away.
Mhm.
And one of them is grounding. I'd say that's something that we're currently really experiencing a lot. One of them is reminding
Yeah.
and experiencing. And so, very easily experiencing, that's doing things together. That's
Yeah.
where, family trips, experiences, whether it's one day, uh, you know, at a hotel an hour away, or it's a month-long road trip around North America, we're doing a thing together and we're
Yeah.
making it count. We value the five of us together. It's so important. So these experiences together
Mhm.
now are important. Not only because of the like, will you get those later? It's not about a future thing. It's about a now thing. And
Mhm.
this is what we're trying to create now, so that we have these moments and memories together now. So there's experiences. Grounding is something, again, we're going through. We just moved in a town that we lived in for most of our lives, our entire marriage. And as much as my kids were growing up, for 18 years, we lived in the same town. And then we moved 90 minutes away to a new space, new town, into a new house. And we've spent basically this school year, it's now March, since September, really focusing on like, we're being here. We don't have
Mhm.
friends here. So it's the five of us here. We still have friends that we're connected to out. But so grounding has been about like, how do we settle here? How do we root in here. So it's not over scheduling stuff. It's just saying, are we good? Are we comfortable? Are we getting to know this place? Grounding has been huge. And then reminding is the biggest one, Melissa. I think this is the one that of all the favorites, you asked, what are routines and stuff from the very beginning? Nighttime like routines have been about, let's read a story and let's snuggle. And there was always a focus on like, what can I say about you and who you are? As an adult, as hopefully the most trusted voice in your life, and all the problems and stuff that we're talking about and we're going through the day, as you go to sleep, I want to remind you who you are. So I remember specifically, for one kid, it was like we created this rhythm, this rhyme of like, you are strong, you are creative and kind, you have a brilliant mind, and they could say it back to me. Just constantly having these with each of them, there's been something different. Each three of them, there's been something different that we focus on at any given time that is like, yeah, but this is who you are. Say it back to me. Who are you? What is it? Who are you? Instead of who you're not, what we're focused on, what we're frustrated by, and like what you didn't do today. You didn't put the dishes away. Well, okay. That's frustrating me because actually, like, you're a really helpful kid. That's who you are. So it's reminding has come in. And there's my
did they remind you?
5-minute workshop on what we're focused on. Do they remember?
I love that.
Was your question?
No, well, sorry. Yes. Do they remember, and do they say things to you? Like, what do they remind you of who you are to them? Or is it like a ritual? Like, I know you said you say those things. That's beautiful, by the way, that you say that together and you're always reminding them. And that's building their inner voice is what I'm really noticing about that, is that is helping them build their internal voice about who they are and who they want to show up to be. Do they ever say anything to you like, well, Dad, you are, or is it mainly just
you are awesome, you are so cool and so funny, and all of your jokes land every time? They say it all the time.
Of course.
They
never like cringy at all.
Yeah, never. They it's interesting as you ask that. They will surprise us, I think, and they'll start a conversation and say, this is like, thanks for being this to me. It's not all the time. We're not they're not the Von Trapp children and that, like, but they're not singing to us at bedtime and that, but there's definitely a spirit within this family. Part of our focus has been so much on like, look, we love each other. That's the main thing. We say it obnoxiously, an obnoxious amount of times. We leave a room, it's like, I love you. Like this, it's just who we are. I'm not telling everybody that every family needs to be this, but as far as who we are and what we've created, it's a group that believes that. And I remember when I used to be a youth pastor, and I would talk to parents of teens, and they get so frustrated at this 14-year-old that like they went out, they said they were going to a friend's house, but they went to another friend's house and they were drinking, and I don't know what, are they lying to me? This is the start of the downfall. And I'm like, maybe it is. I don't know. I don't have a crystal. I can't tell you. Or there's kids their kids are 18. They've been doing this for 4 years. You know what like, there's no trust built. And the conversation I would constantly have is, you want to change their behavior, I get it. But the main thing your kid needs to know from you is that you are the safe place. You will always be the safe place. You will, no matter where they go, how far away they go, that you are the one that they can come back to. When they start to doubt that, they start to feel like you are against them in some way. Now we've created walls and barriers, and that's going to be hard. So how do we bring that back and help them know that they are loved and that you are safe? Focus on the rest of it outside of that. But because again, I was a teenager. I was a young, like 20 something when I was in that role as a youth pastor, telling these parents who are like way beyond me, just because I understood the generation, I guess, and just trying to
Yeah.
communicate. But that's what I've, more than anything, we've tried to create in our home, in our family, is this is a safe space. So
I love that. And I think that's such a crucial thing for kids to know is that we are, and that I think a lot of times they hold back being truthful to parents, or of course, I mean, all kids lie. I mean, even if the most straight-laced kid is going to,
yeah.
they're human nature, things are going to happen. But what we really want is for them to know that they can come back to us and say the thing they think we might be disappointed in
Mm-hmm.
and still know we'll love them. And I think that's something I'm reiterating a lot with my teenager is when he makes mistakes, saying to him, I still love you. And
Yeah.
it's not even a still like it didn't
Yeah,
happen. It's
exactly.
like the reassurance that like I always praise for coming to me. Like, thank you for trusting me with this.
Yeah.
I know this is hard for you to tell me. I love you.
Yeah.
I'm always the safe person, even if you think I won't agree with you, or because we're not going to agree. I know my mom doesn't
Yeah.
agree with everything in my life. And she, I mean, that's just part of being a parent. I'm sure with your mom too. Like there are just those times where it's like, we have to be the safe space for them. And I think sometimes because we want so much for our kids, some parents can fall into a trap of unintentionally setting up barriers
Mm-hmm.
because they are giving their kids the impression that they have to be perfect. And I don't ever think it's intentional.
Yeah.
I also think perfectionism can be a total internal thing with a kid as well. But that aside, just thinking about even your relationship with your mom, did you
Yeah.
have that with her? Like,
Hmm.
did you feel like you could go to your mom or your dad? Who were they both your safe people growing up? And
Yeah, that's a great question. Not really, honestly. So
hmm
my parents got divorced when I was 8 years old, and that rocked my world. That was an earthquake.
hmm
Completely separated things, and I went inward a lot. My mom moved out, so now I'm left with my dad, he was a creative. He was a photographer. He was building his own business. Was out of the house a lot, and when he wasn't, he was worried about if his business would survive. And I was stepping into puberty. I was stepping into who I was and where did I belong and what's my impact in the world, like every teenager's asking,
hmm
all within that context. And I didn't talk to my dad about anything really. um I knew, again, of all the things around my dad, all the struggles that he went through, all the mental struggle that he was facing and the business struggle, and he ended up going bankrupt while I lived at house. Like, his business went upside down. And I could say to this day, me and my brother, we know this one thing, that he loved us. Like, we were the number one. We were it. So again, coming back to how I parent, what we are, it's like, of course. Of course it's that way, because no matter what else is going on, I know that truth. As frustrating as the relationship is, I know that
Yeah.
truth. So even as I grew up, he kept going, and he needed more help from us as his life just really spiraled down. Um, it was messy and it was difficult and it was hard. But so I didn't have that, that safe space relationship. I found it in friendships. And ultimately, I found it in a group, in a community. Like, that's part of the reason, I think, why I got involved in like going to the church youth group and like finding a space where I could feel like, oh, there's people around me that value who I am and hear me and listen to me and want the best for me. And there was a lot of really attractive things about finding that as a safe space that was interesting for me. So, and otherwise, again, my mom was out of the house. I saw her every other weekend. Like, I'm not going to spend my time
Yeah.
telling her what I'm worried. I just want to have the best time with her. So how do we make that a thing? So fascinating how it all gets slightly
Isn't
complicated.
it?
I mean, slightly incredibly
Yes.
complicated once there's
Yeah.
a bit of a split like that and creates who we are today.
Yeah. And I think it's all part of your story. And the same
Hmm.
thing, I come from a divorced family and I only saw my dad every other weekend. And people are often very confused when I talk about my dad who passed because they're like, why did you see your dad over the weekend if he passed? I'm like, no, no, I had two dads growing up. I just didn't ever
Yeah.
differentiate between stepdad, biological dad. But my stepdad raised me, from the time I was very young. And so I felt like for me, I could be safe with my stepdad and mom, but my biological dad, because I only saw him every other weekend, I felt like I had to be on my best behavior. I
Hmm.
felt like, just like with you, I wanted to have fun. I didn't want to really talk about serious things with him necessarily because I wanted to play volleyball and
Yeah.
go fun places and eat things I wasn't allowed to eat at my own home, and things like that, make pancakes together. So there, but the difference is like with I think because I had that at home, I had that emotional safety, but there was a little bit of a wall I knew my dad loved me. I knew all my
Hmm.
parents loved me, but there was a bit of disconnect as far as like we play board games together, but we don't talk about super deep things. We joke and we laugh and we do movie quotes and we rate
Yeah.
movies and we
Yeah.
do impressions and we like joke but we don't go there emotionally, even though I think he wanted to sometimes, and it scared me when he did.
Yeah. Absolutely. I get that. Yeah.
Hmm.
I share that
Hmm.
experience. I was kind of with my dad as well. And
Yeah.
so this is like, it's so fascinating to me as you look at this and you think, okay, so then as parents, how do we fix that? Or how do we
Hmm.
work on that? And
Yeah.
if you're thinking like, well, it's just not who I am,
Hmm.
again, part of what I look at I know that there's part of who I am, how I show up as a dad. I can't fulfill all the things. I can't do
Right.
all of that. And there's probably things that my kids don't feel comfortable talking to me about still.
Sure.
Hopefully, wow, they'd go to my wife. But still, one of the
Hmm.
biggest things that I remember, again, learning when I was in that youth pastor role and encouraging and trying to help create for families, and then tried to also create for my family. And we're working on that still, is this concept of widening the table. Um,
Mm.
basically, that you think about your relationship with your kid as a one-on-one. It's you and me at a coffee shop sitting across the table, two seats there. And okay, can I get through to my kid? Can I connect with them? And if you can, great. And you feel like, wow, this is really bonding. You've got this Gilmore Girls relationship where you tell each other everything. Wow, congratulations, amazing. And yet, we just watched Gilmore Girls, and yet there's still things that Rory
I
didn't tell Lorelai. Like, come on.
exactly. Yep.
But who is she talking to? So there's this concept. Well, let's bring another seat to the table, and some other. Now we would always encourage, like, who's another trusted adult that this kid will connect with and feel like as they grow, they can then go to them. And then let's pull
Yes.
another seat up to the table. And can you get 4 or 5 seats around that table, all focused, not on each other, all focused on that one kid and their well being? And if that kid truly believes that these people are there for them, then you as the parent get to go like, wow, I know what I'm here for. Like I get to be here and I get to provide and I get to support and I get to be the number one, hopefully, and whatever. But I know I'm not going to be here for everything. And I know I'm not going to be the one that they feel safe. So I have to have somebody else that I trust and that they trust that they will go to. And I have to be okay with the fact that they're going to go to that person in this
Yes.
situation and they're going to be better off for it. And oh man, if you can do that, not only does it relieve things for you, does it benefit them, but also, again, it's just creating community around this person. And I think we're constantly trying to figure out, like, who are those people? How do we bring those people in? And as I say, we just moved. It's like it's become more difficult. We had a system and now we're trying to rebuild that again. How do we get seats around the table is a big part of how we show up and how I encourage people to show up. all the time as parents.
Oh man, that's such a great visual too. And I think about, as you were saying that, I was thinking about all the people who Ryan has at his table. And I think the danger is when parents think they have to be all things and that no one else can do it besides them, because there is going to be a point in time when they do step away from us. And I mean,
Yeah.
that's what we want, is to raise independent young adults and for them to be able to survive and thrive without us. And always we want to be that person they can come back to. But what a great example of having seats at the table. And I was picturing a coffee shop and I was
Yeah.
picturing the child, whoever it would be. I think the listeners, like, just think about your child, all your children, like all of your children, because I think there could be similar people who sit at each child's table, and
Yeah.
you could also have very different people at another child's table if you have
Yep.
multiple, children. So that's
Yep.
beautiful.
Absolutely. Yep.
I love
We
that.
were very intentional about it.
Hmm.
To some degree, like where we asked very
Yeah.
specific people, we're like, hey, we want you to be a major person in our kid's
Hmm.
life.
I
Like,
love that.
here's what that means. It just means that you're there. Maybe you'll babysit. Maybe you'll just, on birthdays, you'll
Hmm.
take them out for ice cream or something.
Yeah.
But we're going to be really open about all of this. There's no secrets here.
Hmm.
There's an intentionality behind this, and you
Hmm.
can say no. It's essentially like, will you
Yeah.
accept this rose? And they're saying,
Yes,
and,
I love
and thankfully, mostly they said yes. And then, some of them
it.
fell off. And again, we shift and move, but it's
Yeah.
that intentional relationship building
Hmm.
is so huge. So when I think about, again, I think about Girls Positivity Club all the time around this stuff, right? About being
Hmm.
this other space where kids can go and they can find this safe space to be themselves. But also there's these leaders there, these adult leaders who are really
Yep.
cool and present and active and lean in when the kids speak.
Hmm.
That, as a parent, when you send your kid to something like this, then you start to view them not just as like, wranglers of the cats that are running around, but they're actually partners with you in this.
Yes.
Oof, that's seeing teachers the same way. If there's a teacher that your kid
Yes.
really connects with, like that could
Hmm.
be somebody that's around the table for a certain
Yeah.
time. And when you start to see them as this partner in your parenting, it
Hmm.
changes the relation. It changes how you show up to a parent teacher meeting. It changes how you
Hmm.
talk about that teacher with your kid. Um,
I love
and
that.
sometimes it's not going to be that way. You're like, it doesn't feel like they're a partner. It feels like they're against my kid.
Yes.
And that's a different conversation. But
Yeah.
at least it's intentional. At least you're aware.
Yeah. I love that. I want to shift a little bit to storytelling and
Brilliant. Excellent.
and
I'm
this,
here for it.
it's your like area of expertise that you've helped me so much with, not only with crafting my own personal story and journey and why I created Girls Positivity Club, but then also the story of Girls Positivity Club. And in thinking about that, one thing I love that you talk about is kids all have a story. And I think sometimes we think,
Hmm.
obviously, their story is still being written as they grow up, but our story is also still being written as we parent and as we show up in the world, because I believe that we should all be growing. We should all be
Yeah.
growing and changing in good ways. And sometimes challenges can help us grow in ways we didn't realize. But how important is it for kids to be able to tell their story? And how do you do that? How do you guide them? Or,
Hmm.
yeah, how do you guide them and how do you help them know their story?
Yeah.
And why is
This
that important?
it's so
Like,
good. I
let me give you triple questions all at once.
yeah. Okay, we'll get to the simplicity of
Yeah.
helping them uh craft that or find
Hmm.
it and share it. It's the good
Hmm.
news is it's more simple than we think it is and they think it is. Um but the importance of it and the reality of it, this concept that like I don't have a story or my story isn't good enough or I haven't changed yet, my story isn't anything yet. You'll hear that a
Yeah.
lot from
Hmm.
9-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 16-year-olds. Like, I don't know, my story's boring. Like, what do you mean? or which really means it's not as exciting as Jimmy over there, whose parents were drug dealers, and somehow he like made it through. He got to the Olympics and won gold all before he was 14 years old. Like, my story's not as cool as Jimmy's,
Right.
so I don't have anything.
Yeah.
You all know a Jimmy, right? Everybody knows somebody like that is like, man, how did they? Whoa, they're so cool.
Yes. And you feel like you have a boring life. Like, you feel like, not in a bad way, but I felt like that. Like nothing.
Well, exactly. As a teenager, but then I like most of my work is with 35 to 55-year-olds who are telling me the exact same thing, coming in and saying, my story is not interesting enough. What do you mean I should be a speaker? I don't have anything to say. I'm like, let's stop right there. Because here's the foundation. Here's the main belief. Here's the simplicity of it is a story is simply a transformation. If there's a transformation, there's a story to be told. If there has been a shift, a change in how you felt and how you show up, then there's a story to be told. We're looking for these explosive moments when really all that you need to look for in your kid is, that you used to have a really hard time eating at restaurants, but now, like today, you just ordered your own meal. You just spoke to the server. Isn't that so cool? That was like a year ago that you were afraid to speak to strangers, but you just ordered your own meal. You're so brave. Isn't that cool? Like, there's a story about how you just changed. Wow. I wonder how much more brave you can be. You know what? Like, they're looking for these explosive moments. And I think a gift that I have, something that I get to show up with in life, is just you find the magical in the mundane.
Yes.
When you're curious, when you're searching for this, you will find those shifts, those moments, those nuggets of growth. And that's the story that you get to tell. You get to just identify the transformation. And if you do that, when I come back to reminding kids who they are, like, that's really what it was just reminding them, like, I get it, you're struggling with this, but you used to like not care at all. The fact that you care now means a lot about how you're showing up as a student. And there's a transformation, there's a story, there's a movement, and now you're reminding this kid that, oh, they have changed, they are changing, which means there is a story to tell. Let's lock in on that and see who you're becoming. So start there. Start looking for that. When kids are like, I don't have a story to tell, I'm like, look, Harry Potter didn't think he had a story to tell either. He was just a boy under the stairs he was alone and he wanted to be loved. And then, yes, Hagrid showed up and said, you're a wizard. Well, so you're waiting for your Hagrid moment. Well, guess what? Like, maybe it just showed up when you were watching baseball and you thought, I wonder if I could do that. That's the call to action. That could be it. That's the moment. The spark. Somebody invites you to go see a play and you're like, you said yes. And then you develop this passion for live theater for some reason. Well, great. You're a wizard, Harry. Like, there's your moment. And we're waiting for something to happen to us, but maybe these things are actually happening all over the place and it's just about us looking for them. That's the difference.
Oh my gosh. That is like a truth bomb. Like, I think all about how, first of all, I love the Harry Potter reference because I think so many kids could relate to that too. I mean, you can, live life thinking of like it as a Harry Potter story. But also, one thing I'm really a big fan of is reminding kids of their effort and their growth. And I think the more we as parents can point that out to them, because just like with us, we forget. And you do this for me all the time, is like, we'll get on a call and you're like, wait, pause. Let's just acknowledge that last year you were not, fill in the blank. Or let's just stop for a second and just think about what you just said. That's a huge growth moment. So I think too, like, as obviously you're my coach, as a coach or as a parent or as one of the people at your kid's table, like, we can all identify those magic in the mundane moments of like, no, wait, that was actually a big deal. You just completed that art project without second guessing yourself, without starting over 5 times. you made a mistake and you made something out of it. That's something we say all the time in Girls Positivity Club is like,
Yeah.
we'll be doing a canvas painting and a girl will make a mistake. Like, do you have another? And I'm like, I don't, because we're going to make something out of this mistake. What could
So
you
good.
make out of this? I want you to focus on what it could be, not the fact that you messed up. So I think it's like you were saying, noticing and making it apparent to them that these moments are happening all the time. And yes, we have people in our lives that we all know who've done incredible things, or like all of the stories you see on the news, or the positive
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. Yeah.
like the documentary that's all about the person who overcame these incredible odds. And it's like, no, you're actually doing small versions of that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. And I think part of that is, how do you see the very best? I love that you talked about being a coach, and part of being a coach is pulling out of somebody something that they can't see yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I go in seeing this already. I see there's this potential. I don't know how we're going to get there, and I don't exactly know what it's going to look like, but my goodness, how do I just pull on that string and pull that out a little bit more?
Mm-hmm.
And that was my mission when I was a youth worker, was like, really, like, I get to talk to these 12-year-olds and help them see something that nobody else is saying about them
Mm-hmm.
in their life. And I get to encourage other adults around them to do the same thing, to see them not as something that they will be, but something that they are right now.
Mm.
And if you can come along your kid and help them see that they're already an absolute miracle, they're already a masterpiece, they are already truly an outstanding human that can contribute, that does contribute to your well-being and the well-being of their friends, they're already making an impact and a difference in this life. If you can help them see that, well, then of course they're going to start seeing it for themselves. And of course they're going to start believing that they bring value, instead of waiting until decades down the road
Mm-hmm.
when they've now built a life believing that they don't bring value to the world and they're desperately searching for it somewhere. You have an opportunity to look at them and see that and believe that and speak it into existence.
For sure. And I think too, it's so powerful. And I also think that it's almost like, I remember in the classroom, and I've done this, with my own kid, but it's like saying something like, you are such a helper.
Right.
I see you helping, like you just helped whatever, the dog, or I see you, maybe I didn't say I see you, but say something like, thank you so much for helping clear the dishes. Like that was so helpful for me. And
Yeah.
it's not that we have to walk around praising every moment of every single thing to where it becomes background noise, but I think it is naming that quality that we see in them that's part of their story, and that's part of a positive trait that we see, because it's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day things, and especially when they don't make good choices, it's like it's so easy, I think, as parents,
Yeah.
because we love them so much, to get into a conversation that's more like, you knew better, why did you make that
Mm-hmm.
choice? And saying things like that, and it's like, we could still be upset about something and think about our words. And look, I'm not perfect at it. There have definitely been moments that I've not said the right
Yeah.
thing, but I think
But I
it's
think it's getting
bringing
into this
awareness to it.
practice. Exactly. And getting
Yeah.
to this practice
Yeah.
of not waiting to have the close conversation until something goes
Yeah.
wrong.
Exactly.
One of the main principles that we've parented with is criticize from afar, praise from up close.
Mm-hmm.
And it's often the other way around. Something goes wrong, we're going to have a sit down conversation, look face to face, eye to eye, talk about this. You put the dishes away, I yell from the other room, thanks for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We praise from far and
Mm-hmm.
criticize up close. And when we go the opposite, we criticize from far, we're like, man. I mean, not necessarily yelling out across the other room, I'm so disappointed in you. No, we don't do that. But definitely focusing on the praising up close thing is, instead of just flippantly throwing it away,
Mm-hmm.
anytime, to pause, be like, hey, you just empty the dishwasher without anybody asking. I really, really appreciate it. That is so helpful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go on with our day. That's it.
Yeah.
But instead of getting into this habit of the only time that we talk is when there's something negative, like you and I both talked
Yes.
about with our parents,
Mm-hmm.
or not necessarily negative, but certainly not like serious or like needs to be talked. Well, then let's get in the habit of instead actually what they hear from us, what they see from us up close is positive reminders of who we are, who we know we can be.
I love that.
It's good stuff. It's I mean,
It's so
again,
important.
it's so much of what we do is just like, what did I not have as a kid? How do
We
I
do, yeah, the
create
opposite.
that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think especially with the criticizing part. So what do you do as a parent when there is something that you know you need to discuss that needs to be addressed, but like you said, instead of making it part of their internal voice, instead of making it an up close moment,
Yeah.
how do you and your wife
It's
navigate
so
that?
hard. It's so hard for
It is
me.
hard.
It's,
Mm-hmm.
and especially, I don't know, like I'm an Enneagram 7. I am like party, like joy all the time as much as I can. It's really hard for me to create tension and create an experience where there's going to be any sense of negativity. This is a really hard part of my parenting with my personality. So to think of, hey, this thing happened. We need to talk about that.
Yeah.
I want to run from that
Yeah.
so much
Mm-hmm.
and completely ignore it.
Yep.
At my best, though, I approach it. I go in, we talk, and I think as far as like logistically, what does that sound like when I'm at my best? Again, it's we're talking about the issue, we're talking about why it's a thing, not just my opinion about it, but also why my opinion about your screen time maybe actually has some value. But there's a lot of we. I think the main thing is there's a lot of we in the conversation. It's, we've talked about this, or we are not people who do something like that. We don't talk like that to people. We try to be on time, like we want to be people who respect other people's time. So let's also show up on time. Like there's a lot of, rather than you do this wrong, you did this wrong. Not only does we open up I've been there too, or I struggle with this too, but it also makes this like we're growing through this together. Like I'm your partner in this. While also identifying you missed the mark here. Like, but often they're not surprised.
I know.
The kid already knows that they've done something. The kid already knows that they missed school, they failed it, they smashed the car. They already know. Why would what good does it do to make them feel worse about it?
Yes.
So we're showing up trying to say like, here's the thing. Let's fix it. And how do we address this so that hopefully next time, it's things go differently.
For sure. I think about that with grades with my son. School's always been something he's had to work at, and we're not like the type of parents who tell him he has to get straight A's. We've always been the type of parents who say, we want you to do your best, and we know that you can do XYZ, but you also can't force them to do it. They have to be the ones to do it. And we've had lots of battles at homework time, because especially with math, because it's very frustrating for the whole family, especially when, or it's 10 p.m. and there's a project due tomorrow that no one mentioned, that no one, mainly the person who has it due, has mentioned. But what I've noticed has been the best approach, and this is really connected to what you just said, is how can I help you? What do you need? What are ways that we can work through this? Because as especially he's getting older, it's like he's a junior, he's almost 17. He's starting to think about college. He's starting to think about that colleges are actually going to look at his transcripts. And again, it's not that we expect him to have a 4.0 or something like that. And that's not who he is as a student, but his grade really dipped in his algebra class. And instead of saying, you can't get this grade, like, what is going on? Like, I noticed when I put lunch money in your account, which is the only time that I ever look at his grades, is that you had 3 Fs in a row. What that tells me is maybe you started a new unit and maybe this content is really hard.
Right.
Is that true? Or is there something, did you just forget? So even just, it would be really easy. And my husband is one who is like, why do you have this grade? You better get it up. And it's more, that's his authoritative, like, police voice coming out. And he can be soft other times too. But I try and take the approach of, what can we do? Do we need, because I'm like, I'm not going to be the one to tutor you. And I don't even know what this math is. Like, I've never even seen this, not even in college. Like, I don't even know.
New math.
I will get you a tutor. I will get you a study group. I will, if that's what you need and you want, because we've talked about, like, also, if you continue to get 3 out of 10, 3 out of 10, 3 out of 10, it's going to nosedive the grade. It's going to make it a lot harder to get it up, even if, whatever. So we've had this whole conversation. Like, I think as a teacher, I can come at it from a different angle too, is like, once it gets below a certain point, buddy, it's really hard to get it up. So how can we get control of this now? And what do you need for me to help you get to that goal? Whatever it would be.
What do you need from me is huge.
Or whatever it is. In any area.
Yeah. No, that's it. I think it's just, that's the approach. There's something so honest about that. And again, coming at this, you said coming at it from a teacher, and I think coming at it as a storyteller. Like, my question is, what kind of story do we want to tell here? Really? Not that I'm asking that question. I don't want to make my kids sick of story arc. They're already sick. I already gave them a copy of my book for Christmas.
Oh
like,
my gosh.
They don't.
You're like, seriously, Dad? Yeah. Okay, thank you. 2
Christmases in a row, I put it in their stocking.
Did you autograph it?
Of course, yeah. My youngest actually came to me and asked. Yeah. So, they're
so
not going to forget that their father is a published author. But, like, this is the thing, is like, what, again, in all of this conversation, ultimately, this is the question. And this is kind of, the parenting advice that I pass on at any time, is like, what story do you want to tell with your family? What story do you want to tell with your kids? What story do you want them to tell about their experience growing up? And you get a chance to shape that. It doesn't just happen to you. We get a chance to write our own stories here. And I love that. And I embrace that. And I think it's helping create, truly a magical life here. I don't know. Maybe they say the same. Maybe they don't. In which case, great. They're telling their own story. I don't know. But I'm excited to hear it and see it when they write their books.
That. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. What would you say, as we wrap up, what would you say is your best guess or best experience or advice about raising confident kids? What would you say is you were intentionally doing to help raise confident kids? Or what would you say to anybody listening?
Yeah. It's, confidence is created. Confidence is not something you're born with. We look at people and we always get frustrated, like, they're just so confident. How do they have it? And I've believed, as long as I've been doing this work of communicating to people and inspiring confidence in their life in some way, is that confidence is created. It's created from the people around you, the voices that you listen to. It's created from your own experiences and how you translate them. And it's created from your own work, kind of exploring that. So how can we help create confidence in kids is ultimately the question. And we've got a really active part to play in that. as the adults in their life, as one of those seats around the table. What am I doing to create confident kids? I'm helping create that along the way through a lot of the things that we've talked about in this conversation. It's all about this piece of creating something that is not inherently there. And I look at myself now and think how confident I show up, and think maybe my kids should just be that or would be that, and they display it in different ways, each of them. But there's still areas that, let's work on that friendship confidence. Let's work on that speaking to strangers confidence. Let's work on that saying what you really think confidence. Let's create that. And that happens, as I say, through a lot of patience and a lot of belief that it's already in there. We're just helping pull it out.
I love that so much. Well, you mentioned your book. How can people get a hold of your book, and how can they learn more about what you do? He is, you guys, an incredible coach and storyteller, author, parent, all the things, even though I just hear, in this conversation, just knowing you over a year, he's an incredible human. So how can they find you, find your work with you?
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. I mean, the book is on Amazon. Story Arc, all one word, Story ARC by Alex Street. You can find it there. I'm on Instagram all the time, so come find me there and tell me that you love this conversation, or you had something showed up in this conversation, or anything that stood out to you from this. I would love to have a conversation there. And yeah, I do speaking all the time. So if you want someone to come in and speak about communication and how to show up and speak with more confidence, then that's what I'm about. So you can find all that info at alexstreet.ca.
Thank you so much for being here. It's been an honor. And of course, this time went really fast as usual, like it always does. And I want to thank all of you for listening. And look, we're all just in this together, trying to raise not only confident girls, but confident kids, so that there can be a more positive world for them, for us, for all of us. And think about some of these things and try one out this week with your kids. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining another empowering episode of the Raising Confident Girls podcast. Share today's insights with caregivers and friends, building beautiful relationships with strong girls. Hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. We're not just a podcast, we're a community. Follow Girls Positivity Club on social media for more empowering content on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. This podcast empowers you, supporting incredible girls. Let's create strong, beautiful relationships with the girls in our lives. I appreciate you listening today. Stay confident, stay connected. Until next time, keep raising those confident girls. You've got this.